Skate Selective. Finger Skate Selective. Finger Skate Selective.
FSS's Tape and Box Workshop.
What up, everyone? It's FingerSkateSelective here, back with another Tape and Box Workshop. So today, we're going to be making a spine ramp. That's right. I think I have a pretty easy way of doing it, but we'll get into that in just a second. First of all, things you will need: a marker, any color, scissors, be very careful with scissors, a knife. I use an X-Acto knife. Now, if you use a knife, you have to be very careful not to cut yourself, and especially if you're using an X-Acto, because these things are super sharp. Tape. I use big wide tape. I think it's the best. You already know. And most importantly, a box. So what I'm using today is a Tech Deck Build-A-Park box. Pretty much a standard size box. You can see here, it's not that big. I think it'll do the job. So with this box here, I think the width is pretty good and the height is pretty good to be a spine ramp. Now I'm gonna make a transition here and a transition here. Can you see it already? Sort of. Alright, so the first thing I'm gonna do is try and find the center of the box. You could measure it and go all fancy, but I think I'm just gonna wing it because that's how we do it. There, I drew my lines. I think I like this line better, so I'm gonna use this one. Now, I drew my guidelines on there, as you can see. I'm only gonna cut out one, just like always. You have to remember, we're gonna keep this part of the box intact. So I'm only gonna cut down the line, straight up and straight over, and take that piece out. Then I'm gonna use that piece to trace and cut the other side. So to start it off, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out. So here we go. Alright, as you can see, I cut along my line. Now I'm just going to pop this piece out. Just like that. Now, see how I took that out? Now, there was a flap connected in here to the side of the box. Since we don't need that, I'm going to go ahead and take it out. But as you can see where we're at so far, all I did is I drew my line. It's kind of wavy, but I think it'll work. So we're going to leave the top, we're going to leave this side, and we're going to leave this. So just pop out this piece that you cut. In the same way I do all my ramps, now that we have this piece cut out, all you have to do is turn it around, set it up here on the other side, make sure this side and the top up here are flat, and then trace it, then cut it out. So I'm going to go ahead and trace it a little closer because the other line I have isn't really matching up. So let me retrace it, then I'll cut along it, and we'll see where we're at. Now, as you can see, this side of the box had a flap, just like the other one, so I didn't have to cut along this edge. It popped right out. Now you can see where we're at. After we cut the other side, just like we did this side, you can pretty much see what we're going to do. All we have to do is repeat those steps on the other side and fold the top into our writing surface, and we'll be good to go. Now, when you're doing the other side, it's important to use your other puzzle piece so that your transition is pretty close to being the same, so it matches up on both sides. And another important thing is make sure you're cutting the right way. You don't want to cut this side like this and then flip it like this and cut it, because it'll be upside down. So make sure you keep the box with the top on the top, spin it around, put your piece on there, trace it, and cut it. Super simple. So now I'm going to trace it. Now I got my line on there. I'm just going to flip it around, make sure I'm cutting the right way. Okay, that looks good. So now I'm going to cut along my line. Here I go. Alright, so I got that piece cut out. It had a flap also, but it doesn't matter. Now I'm going to flip it over, make sure my sides are even. Now I'm going to trace it and cut it, and we'll have both sides cut. So here we go. Alright, you can see my second line's drawn. Time to cut. Alright, here goes the second piece of the second side. Now it looks like the top of my spine on this side is a little bit thinner than on the original side. That isn't going to matter that much. As long as it isn't a great big huge difference, it's not going to matter. So if it's a little bit different, don't worry about that. It'll still work. Alright, so now that we're at this point, I'm going to open up one side of the box. Then, very carefully, I'm going to start bending the top down so it matches the surface here. Alright, keep bending your box. Get the top folded down. Very, very tricky. I think I should have left a wider spine at the top, but I think it'll work. Mine's almost ripped off completely right here, but it's no problem because as long as the top is over the bottom, you can tape it down and it'll work. So the first thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to cut off all the extra here that I don't need. Then it should be easier. For that, I think I'll use the scissors. I think now I'm going to have to trim a little bit off the bottom. So what I'm going to do is mark it and then I'm going to cut off the bottom so that the top comes down to the table. Let me cut that off. Alright, so here's where we're at. Now just make sure the top is over top of the sides. Fold it down, see where you're at. Once you have it bent down along the transitions where everything feels smooth and like it's going to work, go ahead and start taping it down so that it's secure. Now I'm going to do that. Remember, whenever you put tape on your writing surface to keep it as flat as possible, that's always a must. Right now I'm just using small pieces of tape to tape it down. Then I'll get more technical and tape it up better, but for now I'm just trying to get it to stay together so I can tape it better then. Bam! Right there. Alright, like every ramp, I think before I use it, I'll put a flat piece of tape here and one along here. For one reason, so it's smoother writing onto it. The second reason, keep it from moving. Now, as you can see, it's pretty much like a pyramid because this cardboard didn't really curve like I wanted it to. When you try and roll it, it just creases. So, it's almost like a pyramid, but it is a spine ramp. Now, this was a very, very tricky one. It was harder than I thought, especially if you leave the spine very thin at the top. So, you try something and you learn things. So, next time, I'll probably leave a lot wider spine, like a little platform in the center where you can ride onto, then come down. But for the little spine, I think it's awesome. I think it's going to work great. Feels pretty solid, as you can see. It's not falling apart or anything. Looks pretty smooth, especially when I put a piece of tape on there. So don't get frustrated with it. Do the basic steps. You saw how we drew the line. We cut out each piece separately. Then we folded the top down to the curve. Take your time curving it. Take your time taping it up. It will work. Try different size boxes. You never know. Bigger could be better in this case, but it is a cool spine ramp, so I think you guys should make one. If you don't want to make a spine ramp, you can make any other kind of ramp you want. But what I'm saying is, if you do make a homemade ramp, make sure you snap a picture of it, send me a picture of it along with your YouTube name to FSSPictures@yahoo.com, and I'll show it in my next tape and box workshop. And speaking of ramps that you guys made,
Let's check out your ramp.
Frankie finger dance. 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 finger dance.
guys, I'm gonna try a few tricks on here. Thank you guys for watching my tape and box workshop. If you haven't checked out all my other ones, go check them out. You can build a fingerboard part from cardboard, so it's definitely off the hook. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you check out my reviews and all my other weird videos. It is Orez. I will see you guys sooner than later.